Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Village of Altamont Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, July 25th, 2023 at 7 p.m. For the record, both the audio and video portions of this meeting will be recorded. My name is Deborah Hext. I am the Zoning Board Chair. Would each member of the Zoning Board please introduce themselves, starting with Danny?
Danny Ramirez.
Simon Litton.
Village Attorney Hyde Clark.
Andrea Witham.
Barb Mulfelder.
Thank you. Also representing the village tonight, we have Ginger Hanna, our ZBA Secretary, Tressa Matulowicz, our Village Board Liaison, and Jeff Mueller, our DPW Superintendent. With that, we're going right to the agenda, and there is one change on the agenda tonight. We are going to review the old business first, the old business being the Troy Miller CM Fox variance request. The public hearing is still open on that, so if anyone would like to speak regarding that variance request, please feel free to come up, state your name and your address. Anyone? I recognize everyone's been here before, so. Anyone on the board have anything to state regarding this? No. Okay, then.
Deb, I'm sorry. I just have concerns with the Officer Gary Blank Road, the variances, the 4 entrance, breaking that up. They're very narrow. It's a large variance nonetheless.
You're talking about the entranceway?
Yeah. To one side. I forget the lots, but Officer Harry Blank, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I was going to say, I have concerns about that too, and I was thinking today about snow plows going in, and, they're pretty wide, and the damage that could be done to, I think it's the Fox on the left, and then the Johnsons on the right, their yard. Again, I just don't see the need for it. And I think that, again, and it keeps coming up about the condition of Schoharie
Plank West, we know.
Plank, thank you, road is not in the best of shape. It's an old road, and with increase of 4 more cars and maybe even more, they may have teenagers that have cars. I just don't think it's necessary. I think they could go in off of Western Avenue, and I think that would be fine without disrupting someone, the neighbors and the traffic. And again, so many people, and myself included, walk that route. And I have a big dog that weighs more than no, he's big, and he's very strong, as I found out when I fell in the vet's parking lot yesterday, and he pulls me, and sometimes I'm on the side, if a car comes, I'm on the side of the road, but it's very difficult. I just don't see the need for it.
You're saying you don't see the need to?
To have a road going in to the 4 houses that he is expecting to build.
Do you know if they're contracting with a individual plow company? In other words, would the plow be as big as a DPW plow? I know you, everybody else probably doesn't.
Hello, board, residents of Altamont. To answer the question, no, there's no talks of having a commercial plow take care of the driveways during any sort of snowfall event. It's expected that it'll be maintained by the occupants of the property there.
Thank you. Okay, just wanted to get that out there, that we're not going to be using commercial plows if this goes forward. And hopefully they would, take care not to be dumping the snow and ice and everything else into the creek. That could certainly be a condition that we could add, that they would figure out some other way to dispose of the snow and ice rather than into the creek. And also, they would probably block the footbridge, so another concern.
Exactly.
Anyway, with that, if no one else has anything to add, Could I have a motion to close the public hearing? Just as a note, this is the public hearing regarding the variances only. This has nothing to do with the application, the subdivision application in general. That will happen at a different time. We'll have a public hearing for that.
I'd like to say something.
Oh, sure, come on up.
I don't know if this is relevant or not.
That's okay.
My name is Tom Capuano. I live in the town of Guilderland, outside of Altamont city limits. Is it relevant to talk about, let me back up. On Schoharie Plank Road West, there's a footbridge that crosses from Euclid Avenue over to Schoharie Plank. And directly in front of that footbridge is a empty lot, which I understand is to be an access route into that property. The variances that were submitted, do they include the variance for the width of the road that goes into that currently empty lot?
Yes.
Okay, then it is relevant. What I think it's relevant what I have to say, and that is that there are two homes on either side of where that driveway would be built, or not driveway but roadway, and it seems to me that both those homes are way too close to each other and would be way too close to the road itself. I've known the people who lived in those homes over the years, and I know that they like anybody would, you enjoy having the peace and quiet of a dead-end street. And to all of a sudden have cars going, not all of a sudden, but with this development, to have cars going back and forth underneath your bedroom windows. We're talking about the east side of one house and the west side of the other. Underneath your bedroom windows, now you have cars going back and forth. It just doesn't seem fair. And after all, if it's a variance, that means the request is to bypass the zoning regulations. Why are we so eager to bypass the zoning regulations and grant variances when the neighborhood will be so drastically altered, and when the inconvenience of having a roadway like that between the two houses is so obvious? So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, but if I might, this board is not eager to grant any variances. This hearing is just for that, to become conclusion, so let's not assume that it's a one-way trip, okay?
It's okay. All I had to do was threaten to close the public hearing.
I just wanted to comment on, again, I'm sorry, Deborah Marion Katz. I just wanted to comment again on the safety issue, particularly for kids that live on the street. We now have, really the great pleasure of living next door to Ben and Heather Fox and their two little boys and enjoying them and watching them grow up. And now we have the pleasure of seeing best friends being made with the Edelson and, the Fassett family who live across the creek. The boys are constantly going back and forth across that creek. I mean, lots of kids grew up on that creek safely coming onto Schoharie Plank Road West. And so my concern, again, is exacerbated even more about the safety of kids on that road because we're seeing them come in and out of the woods. Instead of going around the driveway and using the driveway, there's a real thrill with being able to use a rope tied to two trees to get across the creek. And so they are, having their friends over, and it just concerns me seeing, these kids are going to be, they're 5 and 8 and 12, so they're going to be spending their childhood growing up in those two homes and playing in the creek and enjoying the safety of that road right now as it exists today. So I just wanted to emphasize that point once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice? No? Okay, then, could I have a motion to close the public hearing regarding the variances?
I make that motion.
Barb, second?
I'll second it.
Danny? Roll call, please.
Board Member Ramirez.
In favor.
Board Member Litton.
In favor.
Board Member Lippman.
In favor?
Board Member Mulholland.
In favor?
Chairperson Hunt.
In favor.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, there are a few things that I would like to go over. We went over the part 2 of the EAF for the CM Fox subdivision at the last meeting. There were some questions that were outstanding that we had for our engineer. And if our board has the documentation, I would like to at least go over some of those comments from our board, or I'm sorry, from our engineer, since there is some significance to the determination of declaration here. So one thing from Board Member Litton, in the soil department, we got, it talks about 3 different kinds of soils that are on the site. One of them is, and the majority of the area is tilt loam, and on page 14 of the booklet, it says depth to water table 18 to 24 inches. Our engineer Brad's comment is, it is not uncommon for the county soil survey to differ from the actual test pits. Near Western Avenue, one of those lots is near a wetland adjacent to the site, and recall a condition that the house not have a basement. Not exactly sure what he meant by that. I don't know what house he means. Does anyone have any idea what he might be referring to there? So we have a question about his question.
We're just, in the EAF, the question was what's the water table as part of one of the concerns. So I think Board Member Litton was just raising that based on that particular soil type, that it may be 18 to 24 inches. And I'm thinking that the engineer's comment is that the water table is quite high, and that's why, I don't know, for perhaps a previous project, they weren't permitting a basement because of that water table height. So that's just one consideration in the EAF. It's just unfortunate he didn't give the actual depth.
My concern there is that he's not, referring to a specific home proposed in the subdivision. Again, can we defer to the surveyor who's present to see if there's 15% slopes or greater? Brad's comment on that is less than 10% substantially, so for the most part. So I guess there is less than 15. The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed, generally within 5 feet of an existing ground surface. No exposed bedrock above the surface was his comment. Step ahead
Also,
of time.
nope, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And also test pits and on counter bedrock at around
8
8
feet.
feet. So that would be little to no impact.
Little no impact on that. Moving along here, and this was in reference to the disturbance of less than 5 acres. His comment was, I recommend rain gardens for water quality and water quantity on the lots, a stabilized swale / small berm adjacent to Marion Court to direct controlled runoff towards the creek.
And that's just in response to the fact that there's going to be an increase in impervious surfaces. So in terms of the environmental assessment, Brad's identifying mitigation measures. So even if the board were to find that there was moderate or larger impact, that's, Brad's recommendation is that during site plan and subdivision review that we require the rain gardens as well as stabilized swale. So those will be
And we'll
mitigation
give you
measures.
all of this updated comments. My concern on that one is if anybody walked that way the last couple of days, the creek was at its height, you know, with nothing else being deferred to that creek. So there may have to be an alternate plan there, or an additional plan there, rather than deferring it toward the creek, because, I mean, I walked yesterday, and it was at the banks. I walked today, and yes, it had subsided, but, you know, what would have happened if this happened yesterday? Just something that, you know, we can consider going forward. Okay, that's it, okay, we can ask Brad that. Slope lands well vegetated, there should be little or no erosion, able to mitigate via design and good execution. Again, this is all something that we will be paying close attention to. Okay, this is the pervious surfaces, lawns, landscaping are pervious surfaces and will be on the lots. Vegetated rain gardens are also pervious, so obviously he keeps suggesting rain gardens, rain gardens, rain gardens. I don't think it's officially on the Army Corps of Engineers wetland, or I don't think there's anything official on that. Gary had done a drawing at one point, printed something out, and that wasn't in the area. The acreage was not considered wetlands, and Brad's New York State DEC has a summary document for any specific site that informs on many environmental issues, including wetlands, that supplements the application data in Part 1 of the EAF with known existing conditions.
What comment are you on?
I am on page 26 of 48,
Oh,
right on
okay.
the top.
Oh, there. Yes,
Got it?
yeah.
You good? Everybody good? Sorry. Okay, so a retention pond wouldn't necessarily be a water body, it would be stormwater measure, and his reaction, his comment on that. Some stormwater practices retain water, some like a rain garden are temporary but not a permanent water body. Dewater by infiltration where soil is amiable.
So the answer there is that, well, the question was, does the proposed action create a new water body? We had a question about the stormwater measures, and Brad's just confirming that those measures don't necessarily create a permanent water body, and that it'll infiltrate out and release the water.
The proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body. If it adjoins a wetland, I suppose it's possible. Okay, so no excavation in wetland was his comment on that. Wetlands, so this is again asking about wetlands. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or a bed on the banks or any other water body. The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body, either from upland erosion runoff or disturbing bottom sediments. His reply was no or small impact, not going into the stream. Okay. Go ahead, Simon.
Well, Deb testified at the meeting that she had seen quite a bit of sediment going into the stream during a storm.
Yeah, I agree. So are we saying that this could be a major, moderate to major impact?
I think it could be a local impact of some significance.
Okay, so we're gonna have to, when we get, what I'll do is I'll start to make little notes on things that we need to drill down, excuse the pun, further on, when we get to the actual subdivision application, and we do the EAF for that. That's it.
So we are doing seeker for the
Oh, yeah, we are
entire
doing seeker for the
project,
entire
but-
project, but,
But we can make a note as to additional mitigation measures during the subdivision. So, I mean, I think based on the commentary, there may be an existing condition that's of a concern.
right,
So it's not just a question of, you know, is this project necessarily going to add to that? Are there ways for us to build in mitigation measures that improve existing conditions also at the same time? So I think we can deliberate that more during the subdivision part of the process. I think Brad's comment is just that it's not as to whether or not the condition exists today, it's that as proposed, there will not be a discharge into the stream. And we have to make sure that that's the case, and that's how it's constructed.
Okay, definitely have to revisit that one. All right, so this is again, talking about storms and, extra water going into the stream. And Brad was, I recall Hurricane Floyd, large runoff from uplands moved and dispersed thousands of large rocks and blockages, forcing water above and outside the normal channel, not a typical thing.
I was bothered by that comment. For one thing, I recall Floyd really hitting quite a bit to the south of us. I don't recall Floyd being that much of an event up here. I destroyed some of my equipment down in the Wallkill, but not here. So I'm a little concerned about that. But his ending saying, not a typical thing, is, I was a little alarmed by that. I think we're going to be expecting more strange weather in the future. And what was typical in the past is not going to be typical in the future. So I think we need to be very careful about what we do near water.
And again, we can revisit that in more depth.
Also, just a reminder to the board, when you work through the part 2 of the EAF, it is okay to mark items as moderate to large where you feel that that's the impact, and that should then inform you as to, again, what mitigation measures have to be in place to address that if possible. So,
Which we had done a number of, I believe, moderate to large impacts. When we start to review the subdivision application, can we focus on those specifics at that time, or should we focus, I'm not sure we have answers to those specific issues right now.
So the seeker has to be completed for the entire project, but in terms of reviewing potential mitigation measures, that would be done at the subdivision process.
Okay, good.
If there are questions that the board is not comfortable with and making an overall determination, understanding that you're balancing everything, we answered, it's a 10-page document full of questions. Not everything is going to be small to no impact. I think it just has to inform whether or not the board feels that overall if there's going to be a significant environmental impact, or are there certain areas that require further attention or mitigation to be designed. Because again, we don't have the full stormwater design. That's something that's going to be required. Fully designed plans will come forward once we know if the variances have been approved or not. There's going to be additional design and plans completed. And that'll be for the board to review and find if that's adequately addressed what you've identified as being a concern.
So if we were to go forward, and I know this isn't happening tonight, either a positive or negative declaration, that doesn't say that we cannot require mitigation or conditions set forth later on, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Does that make sense, Simon?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so any ponding is likely temporary with proper grading. It can run off the site toward the creek. Moderate seems appropriate. Okay. Just so everyone knows, anything that says that they're running it off toward the creek, I am kind of putting a little asterisk next to it. Water Volite and Gilderland's water, this project is in reservoirs, watershed, basic stormwater treatment can mitigate with rain gardens or similar practices. I discussed early on my review comments review comments previously. I'm not reading that wrong, that's what it says. But,
All these questions are going towards, is there an impact to surface water? Is there an impact to adjacent water bodies? And I think we have all marked down that there is a risk, and that's why Brad's identified what measures will have to be in place.
do we want to go through each and every one of these, or, I mean, I think we're all getting the gist. I would have liked to have, and maybe we can do that, and just to make it easier for the board to read at some point, is his comments tied specifically to the seeker EAF. Because we're kind of all over the place here.
There are 5 more to discuss.
Yeah, I think I can kind of give a summary to us. The next, on page 31, the question was about whether or not there'd be commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of drinking water or irrigation sources. That's the EAF question. Brad's comment was that he has seen local boards request that pesticides, herbicides not be used, and so noted on the plan during the construction season. After homes are sold, it's more difficult to regulate, just because you're now down to each homeowner, but that could still be a condition that those not be used, which would address the EAF question. The page 32 was a question about the floodplain, whether or not it was in the 500-year and 100-year floodplains. Brad responded, I don't recall those floodplain lines shown on the map unless recently. The road is within or very close to the 100-year floodplain. There should be means to drain and not pond behind the road on Western Ave, side of their road at Schoharie Plank, culvert or low point in their road to maintain drainage patterns insofar as floodplain is concerned is likely needed. So again, discussing what mitigation measures would have to be in place. Another question about the 500-year floodplain. Brad stated that no, the 500-year floodplain limit is outside or west of the 100-year floodplain limit along the creek.
That road is in the floodplain, though. West Schoharie Plank is in the floodplain.
The next question in the EAF was whether or not the project would modify existing drainage patterns. There was a discussion about a dam. If there's a dam located on the site, proposed action is the dam in need of repair or upgrade. Small impact, there are no dams, but a good drainage grading plan is necessary for this project. Page 34. This was a discussion in the EAF about the northern long-eared bat, which was identified on the EAF. Brad just confirmed that from November 1st to March 31st is the only time when they would be able to cut trees, and which is outside the nesting care of young between April and October. Therefore, again, even though the northern long-eared bat was identified, the requirement or mitigation measure is the cutting restriction. Page 36. Question on the AF was about whether or not this was an agricultural field and what type of soil types. Brad had a comment that the soil is okay for hay, which seems to be the case, but the soil is void of highly productive soil from what the test pits showed. There's, hey, outside because the specific EAF question has to do with a certain soil type, which is a specific grade that agricultural soil would receive, and Brad said that that's not the case. The next question in the EAF was about impact to scenic or aesthetic resource. And Brad's comment was that it was a small impact to aesthetic resources. Page 40. I believe the question had to do whether or not there would be an increase in traffic or vehicles. I'm sorry, the question he was responding to was whether or not the action would involve heating and or cooling of more than 1,000 square feet of building area when completed. He felt that 1,000 square feet was in air.
100,000.
100,000 square feet. So typo in the minutes would be 100,000 square feet. You know, again, I think it's little or no or small impact based on the number of homes proposed. The next question in the AF was about light trespass. Brad's comment was a condition that no light trespass can occur beyond property boundaries with 0.0 lumens at property line, which could be handled during the subdivision review.
And that is part of our code.
Page 42. The question in the EAF was the consistency with community plans, adopted land use plans. Brad had a comment that the residential, it's not that residential is out of character, it is the layout, lack of road frontage onto a public street regarding character, in his opinion. The comment being residential is allowed, but perhaps the variance is, because there's a variance that's required, that's not necessarily consistent with the village zoning law.
I think that's it. Nope, there's one on 46.
Page 46. The public had made a comment about replacing forests and fields with neighborhoods. Brad's comment was the scale of vegetation removal for this project is smaller than most this size, as much has already been deforested for the hayfields decades ago. Hedgerow area in the middle and new road in from Scary Plank. Trees, landscaping would be added on the lots, which should be considered.
Thank you.
That concludes the comments from the town designated engineer, which is what we had flagged when we went through part 2 at the last meeting.
Does anybody have anything else they would like to add, or, I mean, we certainly made some notes, and, so at this point, do we want to, consider, going forward for the next meeting for a, declaration?
I think the next step would be for the board to have any further deliberations about comments in part 2 and to hopefully give guidance as to what they would like drafted for consideration at the next meeting.
As far as a
As far as
declaration of
declaration, yeah, the
significance?
next step would be to either have a negative declaration in terms of seeker, which states that there would not be a significant environmental impact for the project, or a positive declaration that there would be, which would start additional seeker proceedings. Those are the two options.
So going forward, what's everybody's thought? Obviously, we're not making a determination of significance tonight. But does everyone feel like they've got enough information at this point to request that our attorneys draft a resolution, either as a negative or a positive declaration of significance in seeker? Do we need any more information at this point?
I don't think so. I think we're ready.
Yeah, I believe we're at a point where we have the information and the answers that we were questioning last meeting on the EAF, so that we can move forward.
Simon?
I concur.
Andrea? So do we feel we have enough information to make a negative declaration at this point? Meaning that there's not going to be a huge environmental or a significant environmental impact going forward?
And just to clarify, because there's been points, good points raised as to concerns, a neg deck does not mean that there are no impacts. It just means that overall, there's not significant impact. And also you can build into the findings of that negative declaration your areas of concern that will need further design and mitigation.
Mitigation.
It's not a blanket,
Approval.
there's no, not a
Right.
blanket approval.
Right. And, even with the mitigation, we can also set conditions. So our hands aren't tied at this point, and I certainly wouldn't go forward if I thought our hands were tied at this point. But that's me. So as far as a negative declaration, what is everyone's feeling? Do we have enough to request that Hyde or Allison draft a resolution giving a negative declaration of significance under seeker?
I don't feel that it's negative. Let's say it's positive. I think there are too many issues involved. I would not say that.
Now, how are you making that determination, Barbara, based on the form that we filled out?
I feel, again, with the water issue, the drainage, I do feel that the creek is going to be affected, and I would be uncomfortable saying, giving a negative to it.
Again, we can ask for mitigation. We don't have to, let me phrase this correctly. If going forward, we feel as though, let's just say we do a neg deck. Going forward, we start to review the subdivision application. All of these things are going to come up again. If we don't get satisfactory mitigation or set conditions, we don't have to approve it. We're not approving it now. We have to approve, we have to go through seeker in order to approve or disapprove a variance. That, we have to do that.
Right.
But we're not approving or disapproving the subdivision, right?
Right,
Now,
right.
we're just
Right,
giving a
the variance.
determination of significance regarding the subdivision. But if that's your feeling, that's your feeling.
It's my feeling.
It's my feeling.
And just some additional information about what a positive declaration would be. That would then require a scoping document that identifies the areas of concern that need to be mitigated and goes further into those specific areas. So a positive declaration does not necessarily mean the project would not move forward. It just creates additional procedural requirements about the mitigation measures. And I just provide that as background of what next steps would be. And the process that the board could go through would also could yield those same things as Deb mentioned about if it's not mitigated to a standard that the board approves, they don't necessarily have to approve
Okay.
the project. That's just
All right,
procedurally from what a positive
Yeah.
deck would do.
okay.
And with a positive deck, who else has to be involved at that point?
It's coordinated review, so the ZBA is still the lead agency. The applicant would have to prepare a draft scoping document. This board would have to approve it. That scoping document narrows the areas of concern. It would not be to go through all of what we've identified in part two, and then requires an environmental impact statement, which is a big undertaking,
I think it's very important about the mediation.
mitigation.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about that. And if you feel that with a negative, we can still, as I said, put some conditions on it. Remediation. I think very important.
I agree, 100%, but we're not here to change your mind, we're a board.
No, I'll switch.
No, that's not.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah.
So, anyone else have thoughts? If not, I guess we'll have a motion to,
We don't necessarily have to have a motion. I think what I will do is draft, I have enough to draft the findings,
okay?
and then we're also missing board members, so I can have it drafted in a way that the findings are adopted, and then the board makes a motion for either a neg deck or a positive declaration
At the next
at the
meeting,
next meeting.
that works. Does everybody agree with that?
I would feel more comfortable, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. It's difficult, and it's by no fault of anyone, but, to not have the input from two board members, but that's why we have, 7 people. Okay. Then you will, yes, thank you. Ginger, are you okay? Have you kept up? Do you have any questions? Anybody, Jeff, Tressa? Okay, all right, then, thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. Sorry, if anybody needs to take a break, we can take a few-minute break here. Other than that, I can get to the next topic of discussion, which is a pre-concept review of an application by Patty Doak for a minor subdivision of 138 Western Avenue, tax map 3714.2.5. Just get a sec. Would you like to give us a quick, tell us your name? and-
Sure. My name is Darrell Doak. I live at 37 Glenwood Street, and I'm here with my wife Patty. We're requesting a minor subdivision at 138 Western. We've never done this before. We came up and we met with Gary on a number of occasions, and he helped us, went above and beyond with the application and the maps and things like that. And he told us that that's what we had to do and, to come before you. Just a little quick background on the property itself. It's been in the Holt family since late 60s, maybe early 70s. Currently on the property in the house, there's still family living there. We're looking to subdivide. The original owner, my mother-in-law, she just went into assisted living, and the bills are piling up. So we're looking to separate the property from the residents and looking to sell that.
Is the property that you're looking to subdivide, is that where it hasn't been cut?
It hasn't been,
It's not mowed? I walked past there today and I'm like, oh, maybe they're like giving us a visual here and,
I don't know. I don't live there. It's my brother-in-law and his family that live there, so I don't know whether it's been cut.
and what size homes are you thinking about putting in there? What acreage would each,
I'm not looking to put anything in there. I'm just looking to subdivide it so we can sell off the property itself. I'm not
You're
looking
not
to
doing
develop,
it
no, no,
yourself.
no, no. We're just looking to pay some bills.
Okay, so I apologize, just to confirm, because it's not a thing, it's this small section over here that you're subdividing on what I would call the
Can I
southern
come,
end?
can I come look?
Absolutely. I apologize. Okay, this is the small subdivision you're trying to create?
Well, this is
where That's the the house existing is. House.
The house is here. This is the property that's vacant. This is what we're looking to
Oh,
sell.
so this larger
Yeah.
piece, okay, the other way around.
But the house itself is on that piece of property right there.
Excellent, thank you.
We have talked with Steve Walrat, who will go out when we ask him to find the markings that are there, or survey as necessary, you know, put new markings in. When I was talking with Gary at one of our meetings here, he thought that that original dotted line was, when they first purchased the property, they were two separate properties, and they were put into one. I don't know that for a fact, nor would I ever thought that without Gary saying that that may have been what happened.
Just one, actually, two considerations that I have going forward, and, you know, this is just pre-application, is, one, that's a historical site. Two, it's a burial site for Mr. Groot, who is of the Revolutionary War. So there is a historical site marker there, and it also says that it's the burial site of. So any building or any subdividing that may be done would have to be taken into consideration as to not to disturb and, you know, going forward. Just something to think about.
Okay, and just so I know, would that mean where the boundaries are set as to where it's subdivided, or would that be after it's sold, or?
That's just, you know, I think that would just be a consideration of the subdividing that, you know, I looked, I didn't see anything specific in our code. It just said that we needed to be cognizant of the fact if it's a historical site or if it's a burial site. Albany County may, you know, chime in on that. I don't know if you have any history on something like that. I know it's something that certainly haven't come across, but I would definitely say we need to look at that a little further down the line, so as to not disturb, you know, anything of historical significance, or certainly someone's resting site.
Okay.
It would be beneficial perhaps to reach out to the State Historic Preservation
Yeah.
Office. They'll typically identify if there's any sensitive archaeological resources that could be impacted.
Okay.
And they've got a pretty user-friendly site where you plug in the site information and send it back to you. Did you write that down?
You did, okay.
You got it? Okay, I was gonna write it down for you. Okay.
good idea.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other questions?
We do not?
Okay, then could I have a motion to set a public hearing going forward on this?
So moved?
Was that Danny? Wow, you're good. So that would be, just to get it in the public record, that was setting a public hearing for August 22nd, if that works for, okay,
You have a second?
August 22nd. Yep.
Do you have a second?
Do we have a second to motion?
I'll second that.
Simon?
Yes.
So we have Danny and Simon. Roll call, please.
In favor?
In favor.
Board Member Witham.
In favor?
Board Member Noldfelder.
In favor?
And Chairperson Heck.
In favor.
Thank you. Hey, Deb, I just have a quick question, actually.
Sure.
It says that the property's in a trust.
Can't hear you.
It says the property's in a trust. Are there any, does that prohibit any of this from going forward?
We just
That would be
need
the-
evidence that whoever's appearing has authorization, similar to if it were a company and you had an employee here. I think it'd be beneficial to have in the file that the representative is authorized to act on behalf of the trust.
We're in the process.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm Patty. It's
Hi,
my-
Patty.
We're in the process of doing all of this for my mom for her care. So that's on the other side of things that's being done right now.
Well, you think you'll be ready by the, well, if you're not ready by the
No.
22nd, let us know.
No,
Okay,
We'll be good.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Tressa, good point. I'm all over the place on this, just because we changed things, but, all right, I'm going to hop to, review of application for a variance requested by, Robert Spring for a wood or vinyl fencing, 6 foot in height at 157 Bozenkill Road, tax map 37.09-1-2.1. Hi, you're up here already.
Why waste time? Good evening, board members. Thanks for hearing us out today. And good evening, fellow citizens. We are coming before you to ask and hopefully approve a variance request for a fence. Typically, we like the natural setting, but as you see in our packet, water has been changing, and we're losing a huge amount of our arborvitae to a lot of wet conditions. It is natural occurring. It's not like we changed anything. The arborvitaes are probably 15 to 20 feet tall. They've been there for many years. The problem is if we cut them down and put more arborvitae in, we're just going to be back to the same situation, and I'll be before you again on an evening like this. So we're coming to you to request a fence. It's approximately 113 feet. It will be L-shaped, so about 80 feet come from the corner of the house, which you can see. There's a map there that you can see. It runs about 81 feet, and then it goes into an L shape. And that is to replace the arborvitae that we've had there. And that would be between our property at 157 and Paul Miller's property at 163 Bozenkill. The only thing that had to change is we had to, Paul and we got together to take down a rather large willow tree, probably was 50 feet tall. It was planted by Laura Frawley, for those that may go back that far, Aunt Laura. It had to come down. That took a lot of the water, but it had to come down because it was completely rotted out. So we're in this predicament, and we're coming to you for a variance.
Why do you feel you need a fence?
I think, well, first off, we do have the fence going around the pool area.
In the
And we
backyard.
felt like if we just continued that fence to add to our property. Right now, the arborvitae, if we just cut them all down and all that stuff, we would be flowing right into our neighbor's backyard. We don't have any separation there. We are approximately 180 feet off the road. So it's Paul's backyard, even though it's our front yard. So the fence would just give us some separation, and it would allow us to continue. We love our gardens, so we would put gardening, things like that, on our side of the fence.
Would you do anything to mitigate the look of the fence to your neighbor?
No, the fencing would be the same on both sides. So we haven't made up our mind yet. Do we want a vinyl? Do we want wood? But it would be something that would be attractive on both sides.
I would have a concern of color. I know, maintenance is an issue for some. A white vinyl fence would be kind of stark. I'll use the word offensive to some people. But, so, I don't know, what could be put in there and blend more, the natural and.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw our property at all, but we too love the natural look. We have not been fence shopping, trying to get materials and get somebody to install. It was like shove that aside and come to you folks first. But we would have to take that into consideration as well. We do like the natural look, and that's why we had the green wall, we would call it. And
Now, within that green wall around the fence, what kind of a fencing do you have there? Is that chain link?
around the pool is black chain link. They claim it's mostly invisible, and that's why we purchased that, so that we could continue to see nature around the pool.
Do you have a letter from your neighbor supporting this project?
We did,
Right there.
well,
I'd like to see a nice gold brick wall. So you have no problem with the fence going up there.
if you open up that door, he will go through it. Paul and I, and Mary Beth, my wife, we did discuss it. I mean, it's just an issue where the bottom of the arborvitaes, once a beautiful wall, now are all dead. They're probably 6 foot high. They're completely dead. It's, frankly, it's ugly. It is just frankly ugly. And there's no other word for it. We're just trying to enhance the property on both sides.
Is this higher level of moisture, do you feel that it's a consequence of taking down the dead willow or the dying willow?
It's a combination of the willow tree, it's also a combination of the runoff off the road from work that was done across the street that has flows right down through there.
Right.
And has washed your property out many times.
Yeah.
And now, the way it comes, it's just kept our arborvitae with wet feed, and arborvitae don't like wet feed.
Yeah.
So that's why they've begun to die off.
If you ever get the chance to take a walk in the rain, come down to Mr. Miller's house. It's an amazing thing. The water runs along the road, takes a sharp right, and goes right towards his driveway and in between our property. And it is literally the most unusual phenomenon. I've never seen water do this, but I'm talking a sharp right. And it goes right to his house. It's amazing, and it happens every time it rains. So it's not anything that, to answer your question, it's not anything that, was occurring as a result of the willow. Aunt Laura planted the willow there, knowing darn well where the water went, all those years ago. We're just dealing with the fallout of Mother Nature.
I would just add, if I could, that
If you want to talk, you have to come up.
the uniqueness of this and why we're asking partly for a variance.
excuse me, can you just, like?
Yep,
Thank you.
is that our front yard is Paul's backyard. And that's kind of a unique situation where, the things that you put in your backyard, that Paul has a shed and things in his backyard, aren't necessarily the things that you put in your front yard. So, and there's, from our porch to his property line is exactly 20 feet, which we had to have when we built the house. So it's just a matter of different activities that you live when in a backyard as opposed to a front yard. And so that's why we're kind of looking for a little bit more privacy there too for us, in all honesty. And Paul can have his privacy for his backyard too, but there's not a lot of houses in Altamont where your front yard is somebody else's backyard. And where the L comes by, that's the back of Paul's garage. So, the back of his garage is in my front yard. Again, not an optimum visual kind of thing.
And we asked Paul to paint it gold, but he hasn't
And he
followed
refused. I'm not sure why.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did that help?
I think at this point, we
I
have
just
enough.
have one question.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
I know your house sits way back from the road, so would any of this fence be visible from the road?
Actually, probably the L that my wife just referred to, that might be going back towards his garage, that is kind of facing the road, but that's 80 feet from the road. And we have, yet again, another row of arborvitae.
Right.
That is
I
going,
don't really think it would be. I mean, the
It's at an
shortest
angle.
part of it is behind Paul's garage. And then, well, he does have you have a little tiny
There's a little
breezeway
spot there, Mike,
where
but that's
maybe,
where traffic goes by.
like an 8-foot breezeway maybe, and then his house, and then coming down. I doubt you've ever seen my arborvitae if you've ever walked past my house next to my front porch.
So it's still 80 feet back. And I think, the concern about, if the concern is about a stark white vinyl fence that would be visible and glowing at night, we can certainly take that into consideration when we look at a fencing. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Right. It's a lot of fencing to put vinyl up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Sorry, Andrew. Okay, I think we have enough then to schedule the public hearing. Could I have a motion then to schedule a public hearing regarding the application for a variance requested by Robert Spring for 822?
I'll make that motion.
Simon? Second, please.
I'll second.
Danny? Roll call?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor?
In favor.
If I might, may I? Mr. Spring?
Yes.
If I might, can you bring samples, pictures of the fencing that you would be considering?
For August 22nd? Is that the next time?
That would be the public hearing, unless you don't think you'll be ready by then we could do the September 26th.
You just want pictures? I mean, not.
Pictures could work.
Something that we're considering so
Yeah.
that we can address the color issue?
Yes.
Okay,
Got it.
the style, color, whatever.
Sure.
Okay,
We'll do our best.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, and I'm sorry, is review of application for a special use permit requested by Chris Wolf for refinish part of her basement to create an apartment for applicant's elderly mother-in-law. Okay, would someone like to come up and give us a quick synopsis, please, or slow synopsis, whatever works?
I'll make it quick. It's pretty straightforward. I'm Chris Wolf. I don't know if you it's just that her mother was recently, had to leave her where she was living, and she just lived a couple of houses down from us, so we're just trying to create a place for her. She's 80 now, 81 now. It's her mother. And we're just trying to create a place that has her own privacy, her own entrance. There's already an entrance there. It doesn't change the footprint of the structure at all. It just adds a bathroom, a kitchenette, and a bedroom in one side of the basement that's mostly unfinished now, so it's just finishing the other half of the basement for her to live in.
And there's ingress and egress
Yes,
there? What, is it just a door, or is it?
just a door that goes to the backyard. Yeah.
So
And
it-
there's gonna be another door that goes into the other half of the basement, and there's two doors that go outside of the basement, which are, it's a basement, but they're ground level because of the slope, so
Like
they
a
go
walkout.
straight outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will there be any type of ingress or egress in the bedroom area itself? Like a window that, in the event?
Yeah, there are windows too on on the side of the house where we're finishing. There's already two windows on that side of the house. One would be in the bedroom and one would be in the kitchen area.
What size are those windows?
I don't know the exact size.
Okay, she mentioned egress, in case of emergency, whatever it may be, on that bedroom, even if it's below ground, because you don't have an elevation
It's not
plan here?
below ground, it's above ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see the elevation, that was one of my questions. But a person would have to be capable of going out that window. 24 inches wide is not good enough. I'm just letting you know, okay?
So how wide is good?
I believe it would have to be minimum 3 feet.
I think it's 36. But I would like to see a window made for that purpose.
Okay.
That, in the event she
Yeah,
had to
we
get out.
can have the contractor
Right.
put that into it.
You don't want, that's not something you want to ever think about.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that would be the second egress, because I don't see any windows I'm picking on your plan, all right? Don't panic.
Yeah.
The door that's from the bedroom that you said goes into the basement?
There's a door there now, yeah.
that would not be considered an egress.
No, there would be another, we're putting another doorway in that connects to the other side of the basement as well.
Yeah, if it goes into the basement and they have to go through the basement to get to another door, that's not considered an
Okay.
egress.
All right, so,
Okay.
but a window and the other door would be two? That would be
Yeah.
fine, okay.
There's no handicap issues or anything like that?
No,
Nothing you would have to consider going forward,
no,
hopefully?
nothing foreseeable now anyway. Hopefully not.
That's right.
Doors wide enough for a wheelchair.
Yeah, it's a full-size door and it's,
All right, we would have to set a public hearing for this, so. I think we have everything we need, unless, Barb, Andrea, I don't know, discount anything here. To set a public hearing,
I think, Danny, did you have something you wanted to say?
I'm just waiting for you to finish.
Oh.
If you would come back with other plans with the windows, the sizes, because we would be approving, if anything, would be the case, that plan. And we do need dimensions on it accordingly, okay?
that you said you were going to have a contractor?
yeah, we already have a contractor. We
So,
just-
maybe the contractor could give us a little, something a little bit more descriptive as far as the window size and what type of window, what type of, because we would be remiss in order to approve something that didn't have, I forget, what's the window called, Danny? That you can go in and out of. There's a word for it.
It's just emergency exit on egress.
You're the other half of my brain. So you think, would you be ready by the August 22nd?
I think so, yeah, it wouldn't be a problem.
Because we can certainly, if
Yeah.
not, again, like I said before, if anything comes up, if you need to delay it, just call Gary or Ginger and let us know.
Okay,
Other than that, it might be a little long night to have 3 public hearings, but I think we can do it. I don't want to put it off any longer than we have to.
yeah, us either, because she's living in in a small bedroom in her house now, so we'd like to
Okay.
give her some space.
All right, we'll do our best,
Yeah.
as long as you give us.
I mean, we wanted to do it the right way, that's why we're here,
Exactly.
so, yeah.
I mean, we can't say, oh gee, I'm sorry
Exactly,
about that, so
yeah.
go ahead, we'll approve it.
Yeah, of course.
We have to be careful.
Yeah.
But I certainly appreciate, having an elderly parents years and years ago. I appreciate when someone does this for their parents, so. Okay, I think, Tessa,
For the kitchenette, that would need to be vented for the stove.
I gotta go to another, I have been doing this all vacation, I can't hear you, I can't hear you, I can't.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So for the kitchenette, for the stove, that would need to be vented, right?
Yes,
Is it electric or gas?
this can be electric.
Then it doesn't need to be vented. Right, Denny? Denny? what it is?
Bathrooms definitely need to be vented, either by window or mechanical. But kitchens, I'm not so sure about the necessity of a kitchen being vented, the appliances.
Gas range doesn't, right?
I'm sorry?
If it's a gas range, it doesn't, right?
If it gas range, it has
Gas
to
or
be-
electric, doesn't matter. I will look into that, okay? Bathroom, either a window or mechanical
Or a
venting.
fan, right. What did you say about the venting?
Which one?
Either or. Electric doesn't have to be, gas has to be. For the
Any cooking
range.
appliances, to the best of my knowledge, does not have to be vented right now. I will look into it, okay? Think some
Yeah, I
change.
think, it's just that I went through this with my niece. We did a walkthrough on the house, and the gas range wasn't vented, and whatchamacallit guy, the house inspector flagged it. So but that's Colony E now, could be different.
Then it has to go through a test where you have up to like 100 parts per million carbon monoxide, generation in a certain period of time. If that generates it, then, you gotta go.
Well,
through
this
some
will be
testing,
electric.
depending on
This
the
will be
tightness of
electric,
the
so it's
house.
a moot point, really. But it's a good thing to know.
Yeah, we'll look
Yeah,
at it.
now benzene is the thing, too.
I mean, you're going on construction, why not vent it if you have a vent hood on it? Okay.
Yeah, when my daughter lives in Rochester, and she moved into an apartment, and they had gas ranges, and we looked into that too, and there was, I know that I read something that said that gas ranges were supposed to be vented, so.
They didn't have to be, or they had?
They did not, so I don't know if they can be grandfathered or something like that, but what I read.
reading something too that
Yeah,
you have to vent electric, but not gas, and I found that surprising.
yeah, this was the other way around. It was, you had to vent the gas ones, which makes sense, I guess. 'cause
Yeah.
it's an open flame,
Okay.
right, you know, so. But that's what
I don't know, they'll probably have a range hood anyways. Again,
Yeah.
good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, public hearing, August 22nd, 7 PM, unless you tell us you're not ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're still gonna vote, unless I missed it.
Didn't we already have a vote?
Make sure she's got it.
Did we have a vote on the public hearing on this one?
No.
Oh, darn. Okay, could I have a motion then to hold a public hearing on August 22nd to hear the application for a special use permit by Chris Wolf?
So moved.
Danny, second?
I'll second.
Andrea, roll call, please.
Okay,
Duh,
so,
thank you.
Board Member Ramirez,
In favor.
Board Member Litton,
In favor.
Board Member Windham,
In favor?
Board Member Moldfelder,
In favor?
and Chairperson Heck.
In favor.
Thank you.
Okay, I think, other than reviewing the minutes, tell me if I'm wrong, I'm making sure, because this thing is all over the place. Yep, other than reviewing the minutes of June 28th, I think we're good. Ginger, great job.
Amazing.
As
The
always.
good thing is that at a public hearing, it does get
It gets recorded, but still, I know you sit through that day after day. You're not fooling me. Anybody have any questions, Barb, on the minutes?
No, they were good.
I have two very minor comments. On page 19, third paragraph. Wait. This is so small that I'm embarrassed to bring it up, but,
Where it says, "I've never been flooded out"?
yes.
Okay.
This is testimony, he worked for NYMO, you have it NYMO. I think that's Niagara Mohawk, which should be NIMO.
And should be National Grid.
All right,
Oh,
well,
yeah, but it may have been
NIMO at the time?
before.
yeah. But what Deb said was NYMO.
Right, so,
But-
Yeah, I
And,
will change that to NIM.
yeah, very minor, but the other thing that I found, she mentioned Phyllis Schilling. And if it's the Phyllis Schilling I know, or knew,
Yeah.
she passed
Yes,
away.
she did.
It's SCHILLING.
yep.
Is that on the same page?
Yes.
Yeah.
Next paragraph.
It's the next
Second
paragraph.
line.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, it's Phyllis Schilling, SCH.
Yep.
Okay.
Good catch.
Wow, you guys are good. Okay, if there's nothing else, can I have a motion then to approve with those corrections the minutes from June 28th, 2023?
I make that motion.
Barb? Second, please.
I'll second.
Danny? Roll call?
Board Member Ramirez,
In favor.
Board Member Litton,
In favor.
Board Member Windham,
In favor.
Board Member Moldfelder,
In favor?
Chairperson Heck.
In favor.
Thank you.
Okay, then could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will make that motion.
I will second it.
Barb, wow, you guys.
We're fast.
Board Member Ramirez,
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Thank you, everyone. The next meeting, August 22nd, be prepared, it's probably going to be a long one, but it's what we do. You will be here.
Oh, yeah,
You'll be here for that.
I will.